Hi Year 4, it's Miss Fulford here with you for another week of money. We're going to carry on from last week's addition and subtraction, and this week we're going to focus on multiplication, division, and then word problems. Okay, so today we're just focusing on multiplying. Okay, so you can see here I've got the question, how much does 3 apples cost? Okay, and I've got the amount here, so 64p for 1 apple, and I want to know how much it's going to cost me for 3. Right, so I can do this in 2 different ways. The first way I've got here is my formal written method, and on the side here I've got my place value counters, so I've used my place value chart. Notice that they're both in place value charts so that you can see that they mimic each other as well. Okay, so I've got first I've written it down as 0.64 times 3. And you notice that the 4 is in my hundredths column, and that's the furthest to the right. So that's the one that I'm going to start with, because I always start with the smallest number. So first I need to do 3 times 4, which as we can see over here is the same as 3 lots of 4. Okay, so I've got 1 lot of 4, that's my 1 apple. And I've got another lot of 4, that's my 2nd apple, and another lot of 4, that's my 3rd apple. Okay, so once I've got all 3 of them rather, I can think about how I'm going to put that into my formal written method over here. So I've got 3 lots of 4, and that's 4, 8, 12. So how do I write that in my formal written method? Well, I put the 2 underneath the 4, and I put the 1 underneath the tenths, because remember that once I've got 10 hundredths, it's 1 tenth. Okay, so I've got 1 in the tenths column and 1 in the tenths column and 2 in the hundredths column there. Okay, so now I've done my hundredths, I'm going to move on to my tenths. So 3 times 6, because there's 6 in the tenths column. So again, I've got 1 apple, that's 6, 2 apples, that's 12, 3 apples, that's 18. Okay, keeping in mind that that's 18, but it's in my tenths column, which means again I'm going to put the 8 in the column that we're talking about. So the 8 goes in the tenths column, and my 1, that's going to go over into my ones column. Okay, like this. So I've now got £1 and 80p. So that's because I've put this 0 down as a placeholder, so I don't forget that that's how much I have there. Now I've times both of those numbers. I don't need to do the 0 because we all know that 3 times 0 is 0, so there's no point in doing that. I need to add these numbers together. Okay, so I've found out the hundredths, found out the tenths, adding those together. So I've got 2 plus, just get my pen here. I've got 2 plus 0, that's 2. We've got 1 plus 9, 1 plus 8, that's 9, and 0 plus 1, that is 1. So how much does 3 apples cost? Well, it's going to cost me £1 and 92p. Okay, so you can see that here using my formal written method. You can also see that here by counting them up, because as we did before, if I've got 12 here, right, but I've got 18 here, which is the same as 180. Put those together and I have 192p, which is £1.92. Okay. Sometimes it gets a little bit more complicated than that. So you can see here we've just got the 2 numbers that I had to multiply. Over here I've got 3 numbers that I need to multiply. Okay, so what do I do then? Well, again, so what's the question? How much for 4 loaves of bread if each costs £1.29? Okay, so I'm going to again start in my hundredths column. I've got 9 in my hundredths column, and I need to times that by 4. So if I have a look over here on my place value chart, I've got 9 in my hundredths column. So 9 and then another 9, that's 2 loaves of bread, another 9, that's 3 loaves of bread, another 9, that's 4 loaves of bread. Okay, so if I've got 9, I can count in 9s, can't I? So a few different things I can do. I know my 4 times tables, which I think is actually a little bit easier for me than counting in 9, because I'm stronger in my 4s than I am in my 9s. Okay, so 4 times 9, I know that that is going to be 36. So again, where's my 6 going to go? Underneath the hundredths, and the 3 will go in the tenths. So I've got 36 altogether here, which means I've got 36 on my formal written method as well. The next thing I need to do is 4 times 2. Well, we'll have a look over here. I think most of us know this, but here we go. I've got 1 loaf of bread, 2 loaves of bread, 3 loaves of bread, now 4, and that makes 2, 4, 6, 8. Now, 8 is a 1-digit number, but it does need to go in the tenths, and that's because I'm timesing 4 by 2 tenths. So what goes next to it? A 0 for my place value holder. Okay, so that's 0.80, just so that later it's easier for me. Last one is my 1, so 1 in my 1s column, 4 times 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4, and that goes in my 1s column because again that's what I'm timesing. So what does that look like? 4.00. Okay, so I've got all of my 1s column over here, and there's nothing else. Again, I need to add all of those together. Okay, so now that I have times them all, I need to add them. So 6 plus 0 is 6. 3 plus 2. 3 plus 8 is 11, plus 0 is 11. And I'm going to carry the 1 over to the 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. So how much does 4 loaves of bread cost? It costs me £5 and 16p. Okay. All right, what do we do when the question's a little bit more complicated? Miss Fulford is buying 4 new whiteboard markers, 2 blue and 2 red. How much will it cost all together? Well, the first thing I need to do is go through the question and make sure I know exactly what it is that it's asking me. Okay, so first thing I'm going to look at is the numbers. So I've got 4 new whiteboard markers, 2 blue and 2 red. And then I'm also going to just read the last question because that's where it really tells me what I'm doing. How much will it cost all together? So I know that ultimately I need to find out how much 2 blue erasers cost, whiteboard markers cost, how much 2 red whiteboard markers cost, and then I need to add those 2 together. Okay, so that will give me the 4. Okay, so now I've got that information. The first thing I'm going to do is find out how much it costs for 2 red whiteboard markers. Okay, so I've used my formal written method here. You could also use your place value chart or counters, but I've used my formal written method. So 4 times 2 is 8, or 2 times 4 is 8 rather. 2 times 5, or 5 tenths, 2 times 5 is 10. So I know I put the 0 in the tenths column and the 1 in the ones column. And 2 times 1 is 2. So I put that in my ones column, and now I need to add them all together. So I've got 8 plus 0 is 8. 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 1 plus 2 is 3. So for 2 red whiteboard markers, it's going to cost me £3 and 8p. Okay, so that's my first equation. Now I need to figure out what I need to do next. So I found out 2 red, now I need to find out 2 blue. Oh, well, I've got a black picture here, but that's okay. 2 blue is going to cost me 140 for each. So I need to times 140 by 2. So I've done that here. Again, I've used my formal written method. Again, always starting in my hundredths column. So 2 times 0 is 0. So I've just put 0 all the way across. You notice that I've put zeros in all of the places. That's just to show me the place value because I haven't drawn the lines down here and I'm not using squared paper. It's just to help me when I add them later. Okay, so then 2 times 4 is 8, and that goes in the tenths column because the 4 is in the tenths column, so my 8 stays there. 2 times 1 is 2, and again that goes in my ones column because the number I'm timesing is in my ones column, and then I need to add them all together. Well, I probably didn't need to do all 3 columns for that one because it just reads £2.80. What do I need to do now? I need to add all of those, both of those numbers together. Okay, so now that I've got my answers, I'm going to take my 2 answers and all together £3 and £3.08 plus £2.80 using formal written method. You can see there I've got £5.88. All right, so remembering when you're timesing and adding and using word problems, always looking at your hundredths column first, and don't forget to write them down but nice and clearly so that you know which column which number goes in. There you've got a variety of different word problems. See how you go, and I hope you enjoy it. See you tomorrow.